Hello everybody, Shalom Aleichem to all of you. Wonderful Bacharim. How was Rosh Hashanah? It's good? Shmak, amazing. Okay, meaningful, inspirational. All those words, the cliches, right? Okay, so let's get this jumping in. First of all, you mentioned the Rivnitzer. The Rivnitzer Rebbe just came out last week. A book called The Rivnitzer. Just letting you know, if you're into the Rivnitzer, it just came out. Okay, I want to talk to you today. We're gonna come at a beautiful concept from a Baruch Ber. You heard of Rabbi Baruch Ber, I imagine, right? Rabbi Baruch Ber, you heard of him? Any of you familiar? Yeah, you familiar with Rabbi Baruch Ber? One of the great Talmudic minds. Last 100 years, he gave us a lot of the way we learn Gemara today. Lumdus comes from Baruch Ber. We're gonna talk about Rabbi Yitzchak Shiner. We're gonna talk about a Yom Kippur night conversation. Okay, and we're gonna come out with something beautiful. I hope together. Would like to start off with an idea that the Zera Shimshon writes. The Zera Shimshon is a sefer which Baruch Hashem had the zechus to be involved with, bringing it to the attention of people speaking English. It wasn't known, and it was a book that was missing 250 years ago. It kind of disappeared, and through a series of events and a story in the newspaper, today it's a huge revolution in the world. Shiurim and thousands of shiurim and svarim, and it's an amazing thing that took place all from a story in the newspaper. Unbelievable thing. But I want to start off today with a question. Does anybody know what a paradigm shift is? How would you explain that term? Anybody? Paradigm shift. Anyone? What is that? Change of attitude. Okay. All right. What else? Anyone else? Maybe Mag do it a little. What? Are changed. Okay, you come at it from one side and you think it's a certain way, and then you come at it, you're like, wow, I can look at it a whole different way. So the Zera Shimshon says an interesting thing. He says like this: we find the colors of white and black seem to have been switched in a to Yom Kippur. He gives an example. By a Metzayra, a person who has tzaras, we find that when a blemish is white, it's a sign of impurity. It signifies that the individual in question has been involved in something he shouldn't be. But in Yom Kippur, the opposite is true, because the color white signifies forgiveness and atonement. Interesting thing. He says, by tzaras, black is a sign of purity, but when it comes to Yom Kippur, the color red signifies the sins of Bnei Yisrael. He says, it's very interesting, you see, black sometimes is pure, sometimes it's not pure, white sometimes it's pure, sometimes it's not pure. In different places it is pure, different places it's not pure. What's going on? And he says like this: the Gemara Pesachim makes the following, you could say, cryptic remark. El yainim lamata v'tachtainim lamala. What does that mean? That people who are considered prominence in this world might not have the same recognition in the world to come. Okay? Someone you think is unbelievable, maybe in Shemayim he's not unbelievable. Therefore, he who is black in this world, he wasn't respected. Maybe he didn't receive the reward from people. They didn't give him a lot of respect. They didn't realize how special he was. He might be very white in the world to come. He will receive his rewards. He will be treated with respect and with honor. On the other hand, someone who is white in this world, he might not be considered so white in the next world. Maybe in the next world he's black. We don't know. In Shemayim, people we thought were up might be down. People we thought were down might be up. You have to know. You don't know. Some of the people you're like, just to know, you don't even pay attention to that person. Maybe they're hidden tzaddik. You don't know. Keeping all this in mind, when it comes to matters of this world, sometimes more black the blemish, the more pure it really is. And it's a sign that in the world to come, they'll be the whitest of people. People you look at, you're like, what is that person? You don't pay attention to them. That person might be great. On the other hand, a white blemish, it's a sign of impurity. And I might be black in the next world. So on Yom Kippur, this is a day which is representative of the world to come, and that day we're considered angels. We're compared to angels. And Yom Kippur, white is a sign of purity, and not black. Okay, so now, this was an introduction to the idea of a paradigm shift. Because Rabbi Baruch Ber is going to do this. He's going to take a concept, he's going to flip it around. Okay, you guys are ready? It's very interesting. A conversation that took place between two amazing people on Yom Kippur night. So I was writing, I had a privileged to write a book about the Rosh Yeshiva of Kamenetz, Rabbi Yitzchak Schreiner, of Shalom Zecher Tzaddik Gevracha. And when I was interviewing people for this book, so one of the people I spoke to was a person named Rabbi Naftali Geffen. He's a Talmud of Rosh Yeshiva, and I met with him. I spoke to a lot of people, but I liked speaking to him so much that I spoke to him a bunch of times. And each time I felt like I got so much out of the conversation. This is one of the things he tells me. He tells me like this. We were very close, he says to me. I used to walk with Rabbi Yitzchak from his house, from his yeshiva after davening, and I would walk with him from the yeshiva to his house. He lived in Ezra's Torah, Rehov Tzfanya. If you're familiar with this neighborhood, he lived in a tiny apartment, guys. If you go to his apartment, you would go up this flight of stairs, you go to the right, and there's a tiny apartment. His kitchen was about this. His kitchen was, let's say, the size from the standard to the bima was the kitchen. The whole apartment was like, let's say, to where you're sitting. This was the whole apartment, right? And you would fit like 20 guys in his house around his tiny table, Shabbos, and it would be an amazing experience when people would come. And it was talking and learning the whole meal. Very interesting, beautiful situation. In his bathroom, he had medical books. He liked reading medical books. He was on top of the situation, knew like everything about everything. Very interesting person. So Rabbi Naftali says to me, I used to walk with him from the yeshiva to his house in Rehov Tzfanya. We would talk and learning. We would go back and forth. We would walk from the yeshiva to his house, and then we would turn around and we'd go back to the yeshiva because we were in the middle of a sugya. And then we'd turn around, go back to his house, and we'd go back and forth, and we were totally lost in the sugya. That's what we would do. Until his rabbis would come out looking for like where. Then she would see we're talking and learning. Oh, it's great. No, keep on talking. It's fine as long as you're learning. That's all I care about. So he says like this: one Yom Kippur evening, we leave the yeshiva, we leave Kamenetz in Yerushalayim. Today it's a beautiful building. Back then it was not so beautiful, but today it's the Rechnitz building on Rehov Yecheskel, beautiful building. And we leave Kamenetz, and we're dressed in our kittles. Yom Kippur night, the streets are quiet, peaceful. Geula, it's quiet, no cars. It's beautiful. Yom Kippur night in Yerushalayim is something magical. If you have had the experience, my church is pretty good. There's something about Yerushalayim, Yom Kippur. It's 10 o'clock at night. The Shiva is very serious. He looks at me, he says to me, Nu Naftali, do you have a thought that you can tell me that has to do with Yom Kippur? If it's a kasha, a question, or something. Tell me something about Yom Kippur. You have something for me? Happened to be, he said, I had a major question that occurred to me that year. So I said to him, actually, Rosh Yeshiva, I have a kasha. He looks at me. I have a kasha. I have a question. I don't have an answer. Okay, what's your question? I said like this. Mishnah Berurah, beginning of Hilchas Rosh Hashanah, quotes a line we say in Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Mechei v'haver pesheinu v'chataseinu mineged einecha. You know that line? You're familiar with that line? You say that all the time. Avinu Malkeinu, Mechei v'haver pesheinu v'chataseinu mineged einecha. After quoting the line, the Mishnah Berurah writes that two words in the line need to be switched. It should say, Mechei v'haver chataseinu v'pesheinu mineged einecha. Why? Why switch the words around? Do we switch it? Most of us don't. Most if do not show the switch, the Mishnah Berurah says we should switch it. Why? He explains. When Chazal use the term chet, what type of avera they refer to? Anybody know? What is it? What kind of avera is that? Shoigig or amazing? Chet. What's a chet? Chet's a shoigig. Chet's referring to an avera b'shoigig, unintentional avera. What's a pesha? Amazing. Someone has intention to do an avera. Now, if we're coming to ask Hashem for mercy, if you're coming, let's say you did something wrong. You took your father's car, you drove with the car, you didn't tell him, and you smashed it. Chas v'shalom. And let's say you did that, and you also did something smaller. I don't know, you were jumping in the hoop in the garage, you were dunking, and you pulled down the hoop from the garage, it came down, the shingles came off, I don't know. So that's not as bad as crashing the car. So what are you going to tell him first? Are you going to tell him first about the car or about the garage? What are you going to start with? The garage. Most people would say you start with the garage. You build up. Say, Dad, I have to tell you, bad news and bad news. What do you want first, right? So the Mishnah Berurah says, what do you ask for? You ask for the less serious thing first. You build up. So the Mishnah Berurah says we should change the order. And by the way, there are some Siddurim that have an asterisk by the line. If you look at the bottom of the page, it lets you know, according to the Mishnah Berurah, the order of the words should be switched. Why? Because if you're asking for forgiveness, first ask for the things you did by mistake, and then you ask for the things you did on purpose. Why are you asking for the ones you did on purpose? It's amazing before you, when you go to Hashem, you say, Hashem, sorry. I stepped on your foot, slapped you in the face. What do you ask for first? The slap or the step? The step. You build it up, right? Everybody hear the question? It says the Mishnah Berurah, we switched the order. Everybody with me? Hello? You with me, everyone? Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, yeah, what do you want to say? Right. Chet is a shaygig and a pesha is on purpose. Very good. We'll get to your question. You'll be able to find an example. There are a few examples where it goes the other way. Okay? But right now, the Mishnah Berurah says we should switch it because of this. Now, here's my question, said Naftali Geffen to the Rosh Yeshiva. You ready for the question? He said, this is my question. We're going to come, in a few days, we're going to be in Yom Kippur in the Beis Medrash. We're going to be davening. How many tefillos do we have on Yom Kippur? 5. Very good. 5. What do we say in Yom Kippur in the davening? Elokeinu, v'elokei Avosseinu, Nichol Avosseinu b'Yom Kippurim hazeh, Mechei v'haver Pishainu v'chatasenu mineged einecha shenemar anoichi u'meicha pishaecha lemani v'chatasecha le'eskar. What do we put first? We put first the mezid and then the shaygig. So Rosh Yeshiva says, I don't understand. The Mishnah Berurah is switching the order because he says you got to ask forgiveness for the easy thing first. Is he going to switch the order of all 5 Shemona Esrei? Is he going to challenge Achagas like a Doila who set it up this way? The quoting Pesukim in the Torah. Is he going to switch the Pesukim? What are you going to do? The Pesukim go with the Mezid first. What's he going to do about this? The Berurah is mamash. He's a steer with the Pesukim of Chazal with the Avnei of Yom Kippur. What's he going to do? That's the question Rabbi Yitzchak has, that Naftali has, that he's asking the Rosh Yeshiva. That was the question he asked on Yom Kippur night outside Kamenetz Yeshiva. So Rabbi Yitzchak Shana is standing there. He's listening to the question. Everybody got the question? Understand? It's not a hard question. What's going on over here? If we switch it, we should switch it everywhere. But we don't. Chazal go with the Mezid first. What's going on? And Rabbi Yitzchak standing, Rabbi Yitzchak Shana, Rosh Yeshiva of Kamenetz. By the way, back when Rabbi Yitzchak was in his heyday, a lot of yeshivas would take the guys to meet him, to meet Rabbi Yitzchak Shiner. He was American Gadol. He came from Pittsburgh. He went to Peabody High. Yeah, you understand? He went to Peabody High. He grew up at a co-ed high school. And he was a normal American kid. And this American kid ends up crazy marrying the granddaughter of a Baruch Ber. He marries the greatest Rosh Yeshiva's granddaughter. It's unbelievable. It doesn't make any sense. Statistically speaking, there's no way in the world this should have happened. No way. It's a real classic rags to riches, American dream story. This little kid who should not have been able to do this marries the greatest rabbi's granddaughter. Amazing story. So here he is, Yitzchak standing there Yom Kippur night, and he's thinking about the question that his Talmud asked him. He's thinking deep in thought, and he says, how do we handle this? Maybe the Mishnah Berurah is incorrect, but the question is a good question. Why are we asking for mercy for the worst type of Avera first? It's a good question. We didn't understand why Chazal set up davening like this. Suddenly he comes up with an answer. Suddenly he says, I got it. I have a resolution. I have an idea, he says. Do you know the vart for a Baruch Ber, Davar Kot and Davar Gadol? Did I ever tell you this? The idea of a Baruch Ber? Something small, something big? Did I ever tell you about that? So I happened to be some Naftali. I heard that idea many times. But every time he said, I loved hearing him say it. So I wanted him to say it again. So I pretended like I never heard it from him, even though I heard it many times. So I acted like I never heard it. He said, let me tell you, it's a great idea for a Baruch Ber. Rabbi Sa, I want to tell you Gemara. The Gemara brought down twice in Shas. Hillel HaZaken had 80 Talmidim. Any of you know who was the greatest Talmud? Who was the greatest Talmud of Hillel HaZaken? It's none other than Rabbi Yonasan ben Uziel. Who is the smallest Talmud of Hillel HaZaken? Somebody you'll be surprised, because he's great. Rabbi Nachman ben Zakkai. You heard of Rabbi Nachman ben Zakkai? He's the smallest. Rabbi Nachman ben Zakkai is huge. He's the smallest Talmud. How small is he? He's huge. What does he know? He knows everything. He knows the conversations that trees have, palm trees. He knows how they talk to each other. He knows the conversation demons have. He knows the conversations birds have. He can understand. Imagine what life would be like. If you walk down the street over here, you're walking under a tree and you're hearing birds talk, it'll be hard to concentrate because everywhere you go, you hear the trees talking to each other. It'll be hard to walk down the street. Rabbi Nachman Seltzer knows everything. Okay, he's the smallest Talmud. You understand? The smallest Talmud knows the conversations of birds, demons, and trees. He knows everything. You like that? And by the way, he was an amazing diplomat. Why do I say that? Can anybody tell me why I'm saying Rabbi Nachman Seltzer was a great diplomat and a statesman? Anybody? Give me an example. Yes, go. Very good. What were you going to say? Three requests. He was a statesman. Now, why do I say that's a great diplomat and a great statesman? Because if you think about it, a lot of people said, "How could you go? How could you go and give away the Beis Hamikdash? Who gave you the right to give away the Beis Hamikdash and take Yavna instead?" But a great statesman has big shoulders, and he says, "I'm making a decision. And by the way, the Beis Hamikdash is coming with me. So Gamaliel agrees with me." That's a side point. We can talk about that. But it's an amazing, amazing person. Not just in Torah. He's an amazing person in everything. He's a person who's great on all fronts, right? And he's the smallest Talmud of Hillel HaZaken. Says the Gemara about Hillel, about Rabbi Nachman Zakkai. Listen to this line, everyone. Lo yiniach davar gadol v'davar kata. He knew everything, the biggest things and the smallest things. Lo yiniach, he didn't leave over davar gadol, the big things, and davar kata on the small things. Now we have to ask ourselves, what's the obvious question? What's the obvious next question, everyone?
Big first and small.
Okay, good. You're thinking even bigger. I'm going with a simple question. You're like, what's the simple? Again, what's the line? What? Again, listen to the line. He didn't leave alone the biggest things and the smallest things. What's the obvious question here?
Where's the medium?
Just say small.
I would ask, you guys are all saying good stuff, but I would ask, what's big and what's small? What the Gemara says, you didn't leave the biggest thing and the smallest thing. What does that mean? What is big and what is small? When the Gemara says big and the Gemara says small, what does the Gemara mean? So the Gemara asks the question. The Gemara asks, what is a davar gadol? What is a big thing? And what is a davar kata? What's a small thing? The Gemara asks. Says the Gemara, you want to know what a small thing is? A small thing is a vayas Abai v'Rava. It's the discussions of Abai and Rava. That's a small thing. That's what the Gemara says. A small thing is the conversations in the Gemara between Abai and Rava. But by the way, that's a very interesting thing because we all learn Gemara. Everyone here learns Gemara, right? And almost every page of Gemara, what do you see? The conversations between Abai and Rava. So you're telling me that a small thing is conversation between Abai and Rava, which is something we do every day. That's very interesting, no? I wouldn't think that. I would think that's a big thing. The Gemara says that's a small thing. Interesting, no? What's a big thing? Says the Gemara, Davar Gadol is Ma'aser Merkava. Ma'aser Merkava, Yechezkel ben Buzi, God's chariot, that's a big thing. Everyone with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So now, on this Gemara, says Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Baruch Ber has a major question. You ready for the question? How could the Gemara say, Davar Katan, something small is referring to Abai and Rava? We're busy with Shas from morning till night. Millions of Jews all over the world are learning Shas from morning to night, right? And you're telling me that's a davar katan? How could you say such a thing? How could the Gemara call Shas? How could the Gemara call Abai and Rava something small? You hear the question, everyone? That's a Baruch Ber's question. Okay. Now, just to understand what Baruch Ber was before we give you his answer. I want you to understand who he was. You have a little context to understand who Rav Baruch Ber was, who we're talking about. Rav Baruch Ber Leibowitz, okay? He was one of the greatest minds, greatest alums, the person Rav Baruch Ber's Sefer, his Torah, his Birka Shmo, it's huge stuff. Rav Chaim, Rav Baruch Ber. These are like the two. Rav Baruch Ber was in Kamenetz Yeshiva, Rosh Yeshiva. As a Talmud in Kamenetz Yeshiva, who had a problem. He didn't have documents. Now back then in Poland, he came from a different country. He didn't have the right documents. The police are coming to look for students who don't have the right documents. So the police come to the yeshiva, to his dorm, and they knock on the door. And this guy doesn't know what to do. He has a question. Should he give himself up to the cops? They'll put him in jail maybe? Or he could try to jump out the window, escape, run away, but if they catch him, it'll be worse. What should he do? That was his question. He doesn't know what to do. It's a shiloh of, I don't know, life and death, but not far away. So he did climb out the window. He didn't run away. He goes next door to Rav Baruch Ber's house. He wants to ask his rabbi what to do. He knocks on the door. The Rebbetzin answers the door. He says, "Can I speak to the Rosh Yeshiva?" She says, "The Rosh Yeshiva is preparing, Rav Baruch Ber is preparing Shir Klali." He said, "I know, but it's a question of life and death. Kuach Nefesh." She said, I understand, but he's preparing Shir Klali. He said, I know, but I need to speak to him. She said, you can go in and speak to him. I'm not telling you you can't. Go in. I'm just telling you he's preparing Shekali. So Atzlacha Rabba. Good luck. So the guy goes into Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman is sitting, learning a piece of Rashba. Okay? And he's into it. And he looks up at the guy. He looks at him wide-eyed. What do you want? So the guy says, Rebbe, the police just came to the house and they're looking for me. I don't have papers. Should I give myself up to the cops or should I run away? Rav Nachman listens to the whole question. Then he says, I didn't understand what you said. Could you please repeat the question? So the guy starts from the beginning. Rebbe, the cops just came to the dorm and they knocked on the door and they're looking for me. I don't have papers. Should I give myself up to the cops or should I run away? Rabbi listens to the whole question. He's looking at him. He goes, I didn't understand what you said. Could you please repeat it? So the guy repeats it again 5 times. He says the same question. And Rabbi Nachman looks at him each time. He said, I didn't understand what you said. Can you please repeat it? Finally, Rabbi Nachman says, look, I realize something you're saying, something important, but I don't understand what you're saying. Can you please go next door to my son-in-law, Ruvain, and explain it to him? He'll probably be able to help you. I can't help you. So, Naftali Geffen, remember, he's the person having the conversation with Yitzchak Shiner. He says to Yitzchak Shiner, Rebbe, I don't understand. How could Rav Nachman, what do you mean? I don't understand. You can't put him in the learning. Right now, there's a guy with a Pekuach Nefesh Shaila. He needs an answer. What, you're in the learning, you can't help him? What's going on over here? What kind of learning is that? What's going on over here? That's what he asked his Rebbe. How could Rav Nachman be so involved that he can't help his Talmud? You know what Rabbi Yitzchak Shiner answered him? Again, Rabbi Yitzchak Shiner is married to the granddaughter of Rav Nachman. He says to this, Rabbi Naftali Geffen, he says, Naftali, he says. Like he's disappointed. Naftali. Like, Naftali, how could you even ask such a... Naftali. Like, I'm so disappointed. Naftali, he says. I want to ask you a question. Let's say, are there bars on the windows in the yeshiva here? Yeah? No? No bars? Okay. But let's say, what? No. So let's say you're in a place and there's bars in the window. Yeah? Let's say you're on a 10th floor of a building. You know, sometimes people think that they see bars and they feel like some sort of compulsion to stick their head through the bars. I don't know why people feel this way. There are people like this. Who, I don't think you would do it, but probably know people who would do this. They stick their head through the bars and then, would you stick your head? I'm just asking, would you stick your head through the bars? No, you wouldn't do that. And then afterwards you're stuck, right? So imagine a guy sticks his head through the bars, and then he sees there's a car is about to hit a kid down below. So he wants to help. He wants to run down, he wants to save the kid. But he's stuck because his head is in the bars. He can't get his head out of the bars. You understand? He wants to help, but his head's stuck in the bars. Said Rav Yitzchak Shiner, Rav Nachman was learning a piece of Rashba. His head was in the Rashba. He wants to help, but he can't get it out. His head is in the Rashba. His head is in the bars. He can't help. He wants to help. He sees there's a problem. He wants to help. So I said, wait a second. This is me now. I said, Naftali, I don't understand. Your question was a good question. I don't understand. How could he put it so maybe he shouldn't start learning if once he starts learning his head is in the bars. So if you know once you're learning your head is in the bars, so don't start. I'm asking a question. So you know what he said to me? So we stood there outside the street over there in Gula trying to figure it out. But then we came up with Hil HaZaka did the same thing, remember? Hil HaZaka climbed on the roof of the Beis Medrash, right? Even though he knew it could start to snow, and when he started to snow, he forgot what was going on, and he lay there, even though he could die from the cold. So you see this precedent that you're allowed to put yourself into a situation where you're learning, and then once you're learning, that's it, the whole world goes out the window. Now you understand who Rav Nachman is. Just a little taste of who Rav Nachman is. So now, once we understand this, I want to go back. Here's Rav Nachman's answer. Again, what was our kasha? Just to review. What the Gemara says? Davakata and Davagada. What's a Davakata, everybody? Abaye V'Rava. Very good. What's a Davagada? Ma'aseh Merkava. Very good. So Rav Nachman asks, how can we say a Davakata is Abaye V'Rava? It's a good kasha, no? You like the kasha? It's a good kasha. So you know what Rav Nachman says? Listen to this. He answers with 2 little ideas. I love this. This is the mamish beautiful stuff. This is so Rav Berdik. You guys have to learn. I think you should learn some Rav after this. Listen to this idea. Did any of you ever visit Venice? Anybody here ever visited? You went to Venice? It's a nice city, no? I like Venice. You went to Venice? Yeah? You went on a yeah, you also went to Venice. Kalakava. Where'd you stay? You don't remember. You went to have Chabad. You ate in Gam. Kids, there's like only one restaurant. Okay. Now let's say, there you are. Now I want to ask you a question. There you are. The main road, like, there's no roads. It's all water. Right? By the way, I was in Venice once. Years ago, I was sitting next to Gam. If you ever get to Venice, the only kosher restaurant is Gam. Pretty much, the milchik it's all the same owners. One milchik, one fleshik. There's like a new fleshik. I don't know the good hefzer, but anyways, I'm sitting there with a pizza, real Italian pizza, right? Like, it's a big thing. And I'm sitting there next to this water, because all water. All the streets are water, right? Boats. No cars, boats. And this old guy pulls up his boat. He pulls it up to the stairs that I'm sitting on. He picks his boat out of the water onto the sidewalk, puts it on a certain type of metal contraption, and off he wheels his boat home. It was a beautiful thing. You see a guy comes out of the water with a boat. It's like, you imagine you take your car, you pick it up, and you walk into the garage. It was very interesting things. So now I went on a tour just now in the summer for the yards of Zera Simpson to Italy, and I told my guide in Venice this story. So I know the old man. His boat capsized though, he told me. Anyway, stop. We felt bad to hear that. Okay, so there you are in Venice. You're in Venice, you walk in, there's the main road, right? The main big area where you wait for water taxis. Okay? Right outside the Milchig restaurant, you're there, Gam. It's the morning. Now the morning is beautiful, it's all these sea fish, they're selling all this stuff on the side. It's a happening place. Boats are going back and forth. And what's your name? Yehuda. And Yehuda's walking on the main drag in Venice. There he is. He's having a great time. The sun is beating. He smells the coffee, the Italian coffee. It's geschmack. He feels the vibe of Venice. It's great. He's walking there, just minding his own business, thinking about what he's going to do that day. And suddenly, you see a Jewish family that's visiting tourists, and they have a little kid. He's like 4. And the kid is running down the sidewalk, and he trips on a crate of octopus, and he flies into the water. Now, you look like a lifeguard. Are you a lifeguard? I'm not a lifeguard. Okay, so Yehuda's not going to jump in the water. Anybody here a lifeguard? Anybody here certified? You're a lifeguard? Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. And you went to Venice, right? You went to Venice ever? Okay. Stop over. Here's the question. What's your name? Kobe. You see a 4-year-old kid falling into the water in Venice. What are you going to do? He's going to die. He's going to drown. What are you going to do? What are you going to do, Kobe? You're a lifeguard. You're going to jump in, obviously. I mean, what's the shayla? Kobe's a lifeguard. The kid's 4. He fell into the water. He's going to jump right in, of course. All right, that's story number 1. Okay, you ready for story number 2? Okay, what's story number 1? Kobe's going to jump in the water and save this little kid from drowning. Good? Story number 2. You guys ever went to Tzfas for Shabbos? Yeah. Okay, good. When you go to Tzfas, there's a restaurant called Mendy's. You ever went to Mendy's? Mendy's, you can get anything you need for Shabbos. All your Shabbos needs. All there. You need Mishpacha magazine, you need babka, you need herring. What do you need? So I can tell you, Rabbi side. I've been to Mendy's a number of times in my life. And I can tell you there's a chazaka in Mendy's. You ready for a chazaka? You know what a chazaka is? Anybody? You know what a chazaka is? Okay. So I can tell you, this happened to me. There's a chazaka that if you go into Mendy's on Erev Shabbos, I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's not very long, and somebody will ask you to pay for their kugel. It's a chazaka, it's going to happen. I don't know, maybe not kugel, maybe gala, maybe herring, liver. Somebody's going to ask you to pay for something. Now imagine, there you are, you're in Mendy's, Erev Shabbos, you mind your own business. You bought some ragalach, you bought some mechveis, I don't know, whatever it is that you like, and you're about to pay, and a guy comes over, you don't know the guy. And he says, excuse me, you look like a nice American kid. I am short. I need to borrow 150 shekel to pay for my shami kugel and my pargiot. Could you lend me 150 shekel? What's your name? Elia. Could you lend me? I don't know you, but you tell me it was Elia. Could you lend me 150 shekel? Give me your number. I'll pay you back. I'm gonna find you. I'll pay you back. So here's the question, Eli. What are you gonna do? You gonna lend them the money or not? Okay, but let's say it's not Aseret Yamei Teshuva. Let's say it's the middle of the winter. It's winter's time. They took a break. They took you up to Shabbat, Chanukah. It's not Aseret Yamei Teshuva. You're ready. It's the middle of the year. You're not feeling so holy at that moment. What are you going to do? He's asking for 150 shekel. You don't know the guy. You never met the guy in your life. What are you doing? Lending him the money or not? Probably not. You are? Oh, not. Oh my gosh. You're lending him the money. You're doing it. You're jumping in. What's happening? So Rabbi Nachman says like this. Elia is in a major issue. Right? He's a quandary. What should he do? Should he lend the guy the money or not? He says to himself like this, it's a mitzvah to lend money to a fellow Jew, says Eliyahu. On the other hand, says a little voice inside his head, I don't know this person. Maybe he's not going to pay me back. Maybe he's going to walk away with the money. I'm never going to see him again. Right? So what should I do? Should I lend the money or not? That's what Eliyahu's thinking to himself. What should I do? So, in the end, Eliyahu, he remembers Aseret Yamei Teshuva. Even though it's Chanukah, he remembers Aseret Yamei Teshuva, and he says, you know what? I'm going to be a big tzaddik, and I'm going to lend this guy 150 shekel. And the whole Mendes breaks out, Eliyahu's a tzaddik, Eliyahu did a mitzvah. Mamish, everybody's so pumped. Now, so Baruch Ber says to Talmidim, Rabbi said, who did a greater thing? That guy in the back, what's his name again? Kobe, who jumped in the water in Venice and saved the kid's life? Or Eliyahu, who lent somebody in Mendes 150 shekel? Rabbi Nachman asked us to meet him this question. Yes. You think Eliyahu did a better thing? Kobe had to do it. Eliyahu didn't have to do it, right? So you think that that's greater. What do you want to say, man?
Probably Kobe.
Kobe.
He had the obligation. It's a higher.
Okay, but it's also a mitzvah to lend money. But there's you have pikuach nefesh. You're saying pikuach nefesh is greater. What do you think?
Someone's life versus someone buying kugel.
Someone's life versus kugel. What's greater? You're saying kugel or life? Life is greater than kugel. What kind of a Jew are you? Hello, you have to be respect on this guy. Turn him to a chassid. He's putting down kugel. What do you say?
I think it's really asking of when someone falls in a city that's very full of people used to this type of thing. The thing is, he jumps in to get him, but there's probably 20 other people that are just.
There was no one else.
There's no one else.
No one else. Just Kobe.
Well, that changes stuff a little bit, but at the same time, if you look in the store,
Yeah.
where there were a bunch of
No one
people-
else was there.
No one else done it. Then who's
No one
singing? You said the whole store
They
singing.
left.
Who's
They
the
came
cashier?
after.
Who's the
After
cashier?
you lent the money, they all came like, whoa, and they all third person they saw. It was like a musical. Well, all together, boom, from nowhere, people jumped out like, oh, Eliyahu did a mitzvah. Oh. They played they got the bell, and everyone came running from all over Tzaz. So I'm asking you a question. So I hear, yes, go back to you. He's in Tzfas. He ate food. I don't think he went to Rav Shimon Bar Chaim Meron. He had a piece of kugel. He's all right. He just needed for Shabbos. The guy told me when I was there. He said he's second marriage and he's taking care of his wife's kids and he has some kids. His whole story. It wasn't pikuach nefesh. He just needed a piece of kugel and you want to do a chesed.
Did you get money back?
No, I didn't lend the money. I gave it to him. I just gave it to him straight out. I don't want to lend it to him. Here's the money. Hatzlacha Rabbah. So here's the Rabbi said. This is what Baruch asked his Talmidim. And the Talmidim said, Rabbi, what do you mean? Rabbi, I don't understand, they said. Of course what Kobe did is greater. He saved the life of a kid. The kid fell in the water. Of course what Kobe did is greater. That's what the Talmidim said. Rabbi Nachman said wrong. Rabbi Nachman said wrong. He said, I tell you, Reuven did something small. And Shimon, Eliyahu did something big. Let's think about it for a second. And this is what you first said. You should have backed out. You were saying good. You said very good. Okay, good. Stand by your first statement. He said Kobe had to do what he did. Did he have a choice? He's a lifeguard. What is he going to stand there and watch this kid drowning? How would you live with yourself? Kobe. Okay. There's a kid drowning. You're going to stand by and watch him drown? You know how to swim. You're going to look there. There's a tragedy. You have to say, does anybody know how to swim? And Kobe's like, I knew how to swim, but I didn't want to. My clothing was wet. I don't know. My Nikes. So what you did is not a big deal because you had to do it. You had no choice. You're not going to watch a kid drown. You had no choice, Kobe. What about Eliyahu? Eliyahu has a choice. So he has a lot of reasons why he doesn't want to lend money to this guy. He doesn't know him. He never met him. Why should he risk losing the money? But he overcame the Nisayan. He lent him the money. You hear this, everybody? This is what Rav Nachman is saying. When a person does something because they have no choice, it's not such a big thing because they have to do it. They're not making a decision. It's not a challenge. You have to. When is it something big? When the decision is difficult. When you have reasons not to do it. When you can justify turning away. That makes when Eliyahu did the bigger thing, because Eliyahu could have said no. Unlike Kobe, you had no choice not to jump into the water. Now Rabbi Nachman comes, he brings it home, everybody. You ready? Let's bring it home. Everybody with me? You with me? Yeah. Guys, you with me? Yeah. Let's bring it home. Here's what Rav Nachman said, and this is a question everyone has to ask yourselves. I see you guys, the Torah is burning in your eyes. It's beautiful. You just came from America already, the Torah is burning. You know what he says? Rav Nachman said, can a Yid live without a Abai and Rava? You know why? You can't. You know why? Because that's life. That is life. Okay? That is life. Kiyem chayenu. And since that's life, and Abai and Rava is life, and there's no way the Torah we learn cannot be an integral part of our lives, the Baisha becomes another content, it becomes something small. Because it's so important, it's so obvious that it's small. You understand? When it's so obvious, of course you're going to do it. So it becomes something small. You understand what I'm saying, everybody? Rabbi is saying, why is it small? Why is it never content? Because it's so obvious. Because it's Torah. Torah's life. Of course you're going to do it. Of course that comes first. Of course it's small. It's so small because it's so obvious. Just like jumping in the water is obvious. Save a life is obvious. Said something small. Something small. Something. Of course you do it. No question. Yeah, you follow me? Everybody understand the answer?
Yes.
What about Ma'aser Merkava? Ma'aser Merkava is big. Why? Because not everyone does it. Not everyone has to do it. It's not for everyone. Kabbalah is not for everyone. Right? So Chazal call it Davar it's only big. You don't have to. But Abai Rava, it's small. You have to do it. It's obvious, of course. What's the shaila? Every Jew around the world learns Abai Rava. That's what Naftali Geffen heard from Rabbi Yitzchak Shiner on Yom Kippur night outside Kamenetz Yeshiva in Yerushalayim. And I wish I was there to be. What a beautiful thing to stand and listen to this conversation. Okay, before I bring it home, remember the first question we asked? What did I say? We started with the first question. What was the first question? Let's go back to the beginning. Anybody's halting cup over here? What's the first question?
Is it big or small?
What was before that? What was our first question that we Rav Naftali Geffen started with? Yes. Why are we putting amazing for a shaygig? Remember that? That was our first question. We can answer that in a second. Before we answer that question, I want to tell you something about Yitzchak Shiner. Two things, and then we can answer the question. How are we doing so far? We enjoying ourselves?
Yes.
We're good?
Yeah.
We're good? You got your signs? We got okay. All right. Okay. Two things, so we'll pull it all together. How we doing? Okay? What's your name? Tell me. Where you from?
You've been misquoting me this entire time.
You?
Yeah.
What's your last name? So Rabbi said, listen to this. About the Yitzchak Shiner. Do you understand who he was? And why he was a worthy heir to Rabbi Nachman? So Yitzchak Shiner, he was a Rosh Yeshiva in a city in Switzerland called Montreux, in Switzerland. He went there when he was a young man. His father-in-law was not well. He went to Switzerland, and they asked Yitzchak Shiner to come and take to help him. And he became Rosh Yeshiva in the city. And he was a Rosh Yeshiva there for 4 years. And while he was there, one of the people one of the Talmidim in the Yeshiva was a guy named Aviezer Wolfson. He came from England. He was a young 16-year-old kid, very smart, brilliant guy. He finished high school already. Before he went to college, he came to the Yeshiva in Montreux for half a year. And he came with a Vespa. You know what a Vespa is? It's like a motorcycle with a sidecar. And he gave it his tennis racket. He was a dude. And he came today. He's the father of the Wolfson family. The Wolfson family, big family, Rosh Yeshivas, builders, big family. The Kitzer, he lives in a house overlooking the Knesset. I went to interview him about Yitzchak Shiner. You know, and then before I sat down with him and I said, before we get into Yitzchak Shiner, there's something we need to do first. He said, what? So we need to sing a song first. He said, what song? I said, you made a famous song. Ma'ashiv, he made it. We have to sing that song first. You know Ma'ashiv? Ma'ashiv, Lashem. Anyways, I sang it with the first, and then we got into it. So Aviezer told me like this. He said that, I'll tell you about Yitzchak Shiner, but you should speak to my son also. My son, Rabbi Aryeh Wolfson, he got to know Yitzchak Shiner very well. You should speak to him also. So I called Rabbi Aryeh Wolfson, and he's a businessman, he lives in Bnei Brak, and I spoke to him for a while, and he tells me he loves. What does he do? His big thing is the Rambam, Mar Nevuchim. That's his big thing. He gives shiurim about Mar Nevuchim. You know Mar Nevuchim? Yeah? He gives shiurim in that big 10-year cycle of shiurim. So he says to me, I want to tell you about Yitzchak Shiner. This is amazing. He says, I was a bacher. His father told me also, he didn't know how to mechanech his son, this son. He didn't know what to do with him. This son went, he was mechanech himself. He went to Philly Yeshiva, and he came back to Eretz Yisrael, and he became a Rebbe in Aseret Yamei before he was married. And then his father told him, you have to learn also. You can't just be a Rebbe. You also have to learn yourself. He said, I'm going to ask Yitzchak Shiner if you could be chavrusa with him. And he asked Yitzchak Shiner, he said, sure, come. I'll learn with him every afternoon. So for a year and a half, Aryeh Wolfson of Yitzchak Shiner were chavrusas. And they learned all the yeshiva shemazechtas, Babakam, Babatzi, all the regular yeshiva shemazechtas. And after a year and a half, Rabbi Aryeh got married. And that was it. He moved to Bnei Brak and Yitzchak Shiner. They didn't see each other anymore. And he tells me like this, Rabbi Aryeh tells me, I was always into other things, into interesting hashkafic things, into like the other whole, all the different types of learning, not just the regular learning. And once I had a question. I have a question because I know everyone says, there's a famous song from Avram Fried about how there was a little bug on the floor and a leaf fell from a tree and covered the bug, and that's hashgacha pratis. Everything has hashgacha, even a bug. And it's not true. The Rambam says not like that. The Ramban says not like that. So I had a big question. How do we reconcile what everyone thinks to what the Rambam and the Ramban are saying? So I went to ask a shayl to Chaim Greinim in Bnei Brak, and he starts telling me the normal party line. I started arguing with him. My chavrusa kicks me under the table. Why do you argue with Chaim Greinim? I said, I'm a wolf, so we argue with everyone. But the next day I said, I have to get a good answer. So I went to Gedalia Nadel. Gedalia Nadel was the Rav of the shul of Chaim David, of Chaim Kanievsky. He lived downstairs from Chaim, and I went to ask him. He was known as the big Baal Machshava. I went to Gedalia Nadel to ask him. And I came into his house. He lived in a tiny Bnei apartment. I came and he was eating lunch. I said, I'll come back. You're eating lunch? He said, no, come in, sit down. What do you want to ask me? So I asked him the question. We got into a whole conversation. And then he says to me, he calls me the next day. He says, listen, I like talking to you. You're invited back to my house. Let's have chavrusa shaf during lunch. And he became my Rebbe in Machshava from Gedalia Nedel. So years go by, and I got into Moreh Nevuchim. I became big into Moreh Nevuchim. I started giving shiur in Moreh Nevuchim. And one day, 10 years after I stopped learning with the Mitzvah Shiner, I'm on a plane going to America for business. And I'm in the business class over there. And I see Mitzvah Shiner sitting there. And we're sitting down. And he sees me with my sfarm on the seat because I'm preparing shiur in the Moreh Nevuchim. And he says to me, What are you learning? So I said, it's Moreh Nevuchim. I'm preparing shiur Moreh Nevuchim. And I don't think he knows it. How does he know it? He knows Baba Kama, Baba Matzia. You know what? For the next 6 hours, we talked and learning Moreh Nevuchim. He knew everything. Everything I was talking about, he was familiar with it. And I said, Rav Ari told me, I had 2 chavrusa shas with Yitzchak Shiner. One that was long but short, and one that was short but long. It was long for a year and a half. I learned with him, but I didn't understand who he was. And then I learned with him for 6 hours. I understood he was huge. He not just Baba Kama, Baba Matzia, Baba Basra, and not just Gittin and Kiddushin, and not just an engine. He knew everything. And I understood that from that small chavrusa shas. One more story, and then we're going to finish up, Rabbi. Say, you're amazing. We're going to finish up. You're doing great. How are we doing so far? We're doing good? Yeah. You have a little bit more? You like the stories? Good. You like the word also? Okay. All right, so let's finish up. Rabbi, so listen to this one last story. I heard from a guy named Oscar Vassing. He was a Talmud of Yitzchak Shiner. Oscar lives in Petach Tikva. Today he's an old man. And he was a Talmud in Montreal also. And he said to me, I have to tell you, Yitzchak Shiner, he's my Rebbe. I love him. I love him. I don't wear a hat and jacket, he told me. But every time I come to Yerushalayim, I have a hat and jacket in my car, because every time I come to Yerushalayim, I go visit my Rebbe and I put on a hat and jacket. I don't wear a hat and jacket, but to visit my Rebbe, I put on a hat and jacket. He said like this, when I was a kid in Montreal, some people liked swimming. Some people liked this. I was a mountain climber. I like mountain climbing. If you're in Switzerland, that's a good place to like mountain climbing. There's a lot of mountains. So I said, you had your gear? He said, I had the gear, I had the cleats, and I had the picks, and I had all the stuff. Amateur mountain climber, but pretty good. In Yeshiva, we had sometimes Rosh Yeshiva would give us a day off or half a day off. We didn't have like a beinus amount of months off. We had like a day, take a day off, take an afternoon off. One day, Rabbi Yisrael comes to the Beis Medrash and says, Rabbi Yisrael, today I'm giving you off the day, vacation. So I said, great, I'm going to go climb a mountain. It's exciting. I have all my stuff, all my gear. Amazing. I'm about to leave the yeshiva with my gear when a guy comes over to me. He says, Oscar, can I join you? Can I come with you mountain climbing? And I'm like, this guy doesn't know how to climb. This is not like, oh, can I play basketball with you and you don't know how to play basketball? If you know how to climb a mountain, it's like life and death. Yeah. Literally. But he said, I don't know why I said yes to the guy. I don't know why. I said, okay. And so we come and we leave the city of Montreal and we go to the mountains and we start climbing. We go like on a trail and it starts getting tough and it's getting later and we're climbing. It's like I have to help him because he doesn't know what he's doing. And then, he says, it gets dark, it starts getting dark. And then we get to this place where you have to jump. You have to make a jump from like over this huge drop. And it's very hard to do it. And he said, even myself who was good at it, I don't know if I would have done it if it was by myself, but for sure not with this guy. There's nothing to talk about. He'll die. So I said, we have to go back down. We can't continue. So now, it's like 12 o'clock at night by now. And we're like trying to get down the mountain. And the brambles are scratching our faces. And we're turning and we're falling. And it's really hard to see in the dark. And we're coming back to Montreux. It's at 1 o'clock in the morning. We're battered and bruised from all the branches. Okay, so we get back to Montreux. He says, this is what Oscar tells me. Like, imagine as if it happened the day before. That's how clear he is. And he says the lights are on. The lights of the city are on. It's like blazing, like the middle of the day. Like, why are the lights on? And like I see soldiers and the police. Everyone's out. It's like 1 in the morning. Why is everyone out? So suddenly a guy comes over and he goes, Oscar. I said, what's going on? Why are all the army? Why is the army out? He says, they're looking for these 2 boys who were lost in the mountains. I'm like, the 2 boys, me, you're looking for me, right? Okay, guys, tell the army, the police, we're back. Baruch Hashem, you don't have to look anymore. We're found. Everyone can close up shop and go home. It was very embarrassing. But you know what's worse than that? That I know Rosh Yeshiva's waiting. And if any of you, I'm sure some of you, most of you probably tzaddikim never got called to the principal's office or the head counsel's office or any figure of authority. But if you ever did, not that you would, but you know what it's like when they're waiting for you and they're ready. They're ready to tell you what they think of what you did. And here, you know, I did something terrible. We almost died. The Rosh Yeshiva's waiting for me. And the guy says to me, I feel bad for you. Rav Yitzchak's waiting for you. The other guy says, I'm not mentally or emotionally capable of dealing with this right now. I'm not coming. So he leaves me to face the music by myself at 1:30 in the morning in Montreux, Switzerland, after a day of mountain climbing and supporting someone who could have died. And I walk into the yeshiva, I see Rav Yitzchak Shiner standing there, his face is white, like just completely devoid of color, pale, and he looks like he gained, like he lost 10 years of his life that night. And he doesn't say a word to me. He doesn't yell at me. He doesn't scream at me. He doesn't say, what did you do? How could you do such a thing? I'm throwing you out of here. You're Rikers Island. He doesn't say anything. He takes me to the office. He has a first aid kit, and he takes out peroxide and a Band-Aid, and he starts cleaning my face from the cuts, the blood off of my face. He's cleaning it gently with some cotton and peroxide, and he's cleaning it. He makes sure that I'm okay, and he's cleaning the blood off of my face. And when he finishes, he says to me, come. Still not a word about what I did. Come. He takes me out front of the yeshiva. There's a taxi waiting. I don't know how he figured it like that. There's a taxi waiting. And we get in the taxi, and the taxi takes me to the Shiner home. And I come in the house. I don't know how he did it. It's not like cell phones and text messages and this and what's. It's not. It's just like nobody even has phones. Somehow he managed, his wife has this bowl of soup on the table, steaming bowl of soup. And I sat down. Rabbi, so listen to this. The next thing that happened, it's like a throwback to 150 years ago. It's a throwback to 500 years ago. This is the chinuch of today. It's the chinuch from 500 years ago. Listen to what Rabbi Yitzchak Shana did. He picks up a spoon from the table, he dips it into the bowl of soup, and he starts feeding Oscar fasting. He feeds him soup, because Oscar's so tired, he's so exhausted from almost dying that day, that he doesn't even have strength to pick up the spoon. And the Rosh Yeshiva starts feeding him. He feeds him a whole bowl of soup till he finishes the bowl of soup. This guy's overcome. Look at that, he's overcome. Overcome. Oh, you're fine, okay. So listen, he finishes the soup. Rabbi Yitzchak takes him back to the yeshiva in the taxi, and he brings him to his room and he helps him into bed. And he pulls the covers up to his neck, and then he says to him in Yiddish, he says, "Ich beit dir," he says, "I beg of you, please don't ever do this again." At that moment, Rabbi Yitzchak Shiner acquired a Talmud for life. You understand? What would be your gut feeling as a figure of authority to tell this boy what he did, and how could you? With those few words, uttered in those gentle of tones, Rabbi Yitzchak Shiner showed what a Rebbe really is and acquired a Talmud for life. That's Rabbi Yitzchak Shiner. All right, Rabbi, so back to and we're going to answer our question. Rabbi Yitzchak Shiner says in Naftali right outside Kamen Yeshiva on Yom Kippur night. Rabbi Yisrael, he says, we come to Rabbi Shalom. We have a bag of Averis on our backs. We have a bag of Averis we did on purpose, and a bag of Averis we did by mistake. When it comes to the Averis we did on purpose, we look up at the sky, we say, Hashem, Master of the world, I cannot continue living this way. I need you to help me do tshuva so I can remove the terrible burden I have on my shoulders I'm carrying for so long. I can't, Hashem, help me. I have these terrible Averis that I always do, I keep on doing them. Help me, Hashem. You know what, when it comes to unintentional Averis, we're not in such a rush. We have defense. We say, I didn't mean it, I didn't know, I won't do it anymore. So which of these two Averis is a Davar Gadol, or which is a Davar Katan, Rabbi Say? What's a Davar Gadol, what's a Davar Katan? A Davar Gadol, Aver we do on purpose, is a Davar Katan because we can't deal with it. We're desperate to get rid of it, so of course we talk about it first. And Aver we did it on by mistake, it's a Davar Gadol. We'll get to it, hopefully, we want to. But that's why we first go with a davar, which we did on purpose, because that's a davar katan, and that's for Baruch Ber's Bart, and that's the whole idea of a paradigm shifter by side. Baruch Ber turned it all around, and you're going to go in. Now you understand what Baruch Ber is, and this year you should look into him. You should understand when you learn Gemara. Take this idea that we talk about tonight, the idea of a paradigm shift, and apply it to Gemara. All the things you thought, all those preconceived notions about Yiddishkeit, about everything, about what it means to be a Yid. Come in, maybe it's time to look at it with a fresh view. Ask the questions. Challenge. Or Baruch Ber is saying what you thought is completely not, right? That's what he said. It's Talmidim. No, for sure, if you jump off the water, that's the big thing. Think bigger. Think deeper. But of course, that's why Rabbi said, when it comes to the Averis we do on purpose, of course, it's a Davar Katan and we have to deal with it. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me. Shkoyach.